That story is first on Fox tonight. Is it security or just a chauffeured ride to work? With taxes going up, Fox News Chicago has been keeping an eye on some of the perks our elected officials receive. Tonight, we watch as the clerk of the Cook County Circuit Court, Dorothy Brown, gets driven around by a man on her payroll as a systems analyst. Dane Placco has this, Fox News Chicago.
Chicago rush hour, crowded expressways, packed buses and trains, long lines, big headaches.
The outbound Kennedy packed.
Wouldn't it be nice to have someone drive you to work?
Hey, baby, you're barking up the wrong tree. You got the woman that's doing this thing right.
Commuting is a snap for Cook County Circuit Court Clerk Dorothy Brown because she gets driven to work and home in this county-provided car.
I don't have a chauffeur.
Well, he does drive you
I have
around.
a security detail that has been forced into driving.
We watched on a recent weekday as Brown's driver arrived at her home shortly after 9 o'clock. He picked the newspaper off her porch, retrieved Brown's county-issued Ford Expedition XLT, waited at the door, helping Brown down the driveway and into the car, then drove her to the Daily Center downtown.
We saw him pick up your mail, get the newspapers off your stoop, bring them in the house. I mean, are those all part of his functions?
Just being a gentleman. Just being a gentleman. I have gentlemen that work for me.
Brown, who supervises 2,100 employees, says he's not just a driver, he's security. She says she needs the protection because her name is stamped on court records.
I'm dealing with two death threat letters right now where this gentleman talks about the instruments that he will rape me with in front of my family, how he will then kill me, and how he will also kill my family.
But the man we saw driving Brown, former police officer Melvin Darby, isn't listed as a security officer. He's on the county payroll as a systems analyst for the clerk's office, making $63,000 a year.
He's listed as a systems analyst on your payroll.
Oh, well, you know, that's just a functional title. That's just a budget title.
Brown says he's one of 10 investigators on her staff, all with clerical job titles and all carrying guns. She says she created the unit because the sheriff's department wouldn't provide her security.
Usually they won't be listed as chauffeur because they understand that the public would be outraged to find out about this. So they give them a job like systems analyst, and then lo and behold, they look and act suspiciously just like a chauffeur.
It's a charge Brown vehemently denies.
Like I said, Mr. Darby has 5 jobs. He has to secure me. He then drives that vehicle, which is not an easy job. He then comes down here and he has to investigate these various complaints that we get from the employees. He has to supervise the security detail and supervise people that are doing investigations.
But this former clerk's employee tells a different story. Fox News agreed to hide his identity because he's looking for another job in politics.
These guys just sit around and wait for Dorothy Brown to come. That's what they do. Even when she's coming down the stairs, it's a guy holding her arm. I'm telling you, it's a nice job. No question about it.
Brown says she's already cut back on her security detail, and she says she's actually doing taxpayers a favor by being driven to work and parking for free in the Daily Center garage.
I'm not being a very efficient elected official at my level if I have to do that. And
Isn't
if I have
that
to
what
drive
most employees
myself
of the
out
county
to
do?
Skokie, but am I just an employee of the county? Please tell me if you feel that way.
When we asked Brown about the pricey car and other expenses, she complained about her salary.
I make only $105,000 a year in order to run this whole big system.
You don't think that's very much?
I'm one of the lowest paid elected officials in Cook County.
Brown says because State's Attorney Dick Devine and Sheriff Tom Dart get a security detail, she deserves one too.
I'm like a law enforcement person.
But you're not really law enforcement. I mean, you're the court clerk. You're in charge of making sure the documents get to the right place.
You're absolutely right, and that's what people think, that that's all I do.
But I mean, if the judges don't need security, and they're the ones actually sending these criminals to prison or jail, do you need security?
You would take that up with the security.
About 8 hours after we saw Brown leave her home, she returned, the driver helping her into the house, retrieving her mail, and throwing a campaign sign in the back of her county car.
Some people are going to see this and say she has a certain sense of entitlement.
Oh, I don't say entitlement. Oh, absolutely not.
You don't think so?
No, it's not entitlement. It's by necessity.
A spokesperson for the Cook County Sheriff's Tom Dart says 4 of Brown's staffers have been deputized to carry guns, but didn't know whether Brown had ever asked for protection. Ms. Brown showed us the threatening letter that arrived at her office in December, but she did not inform the Sheriff's Department about that letter, that threat, which came from an inmate at the Cook County Jail. More from our interview with Dorothy Brown can be found online at myfoxchicago.com. And Robin and David, as we mentioned in the story, Brown says that Sheriff Dart gets driven. We checked with his office. His spokesperson actually says that he does not. He, more often than not, drives himself to work and back home.
You know, my question is it legal to list someone as a systems analyst when they're not?
It's hard to say. It's certainly something that some of her detractors are looking at right now, I can tell you that.
But if she's had threats, and you would think as the clerk of the court who has, you know, perhaps has presided over people's sentencing for not paying one thing or another, then you would think that she would qualify for some sort of security detail.
And the Sheriff's Department says if she has threats, they would like to know about it because they provide security to other elected officials in Cook County who do get threats. They just haven't heard about it.
Okay, and I know it sounds bad to say that she's not just any other county employee, but she's really not.
She's an elected official.
And the head of the courts, the clerk of the court.
True.
So anyway, but doesn't look good. Thank you, Dave.
No, it's a hot topic for us, and that story leads to this discussion. Cook County Circuit Court Clerk Dorothy Brown says she deserves a security detail chauffeur, who, by the way, is listed as a systems analyst. Is she right or wrong? Log on to myfoxchicago.com to let us know. You can also leave a comment on our message board, or you can text your response to Fox 32 results in our second half hour.
Now, if you know about a story we should investigate, please call our tip line at 312-565-8076. The public has the best story ideas. That's 312-565-8076.